Hey everyone, welcome you all. In our previous videos, we have seen how to read JSON file using JSON library and also by using JSON library. Now in the today's video, I'm going to show you how can we read JSON file using JSON-Simple library. So for that, I'm opening my Eclipse and here I have already one file called JSON which contains some JSON data. Now we will read this data by using JSON-Simple library. For that, we need to add dependency in pom.xml. Let's go to pom.xml of Maven project, and this is a dependency which we need to add, JSON-Simple. So we can get this dependency from MVN global repository. So you can just go to MVN repository and here just search for JSON-Simple, and this will give you JSON.simple, and here this is a dependency you can just add in the pom.xml. So once we added this dependency, it will download required libraries and we are ready to write our automation script. So let's go to the JSON file, and here I'm going to create new class and through which I'm going to read the data from the JSON file. So I'm giving one class name called reading JSON file using JSON-Simple library. Let me take main method. Okay, so here to read data from the JSON file, here we no need to create a special Java classes. That is a advantage which we have from simple library, JSON-Simple library. But when I use this JSON library and JSON library, we have to create Java classes, and which is exactly mapped with our JSON file objects. But now when I use JSON-Simple library, we no need to create any separate Java classes for JSON file. And here JSON-Simple library is provided a special class called JSON parser class. And through those methods, we can easily parse our JSON file. Now, what we can do is, first of all, we need to create a new class object of JSON parser. So that we need to import. So JSON parser, and I'll create one object called JSON parser equal to new JSON parser. Right, so we need to import this JSON parser from org.json.simple.parser. So by using this object, we have to parse the JSON file. So before that, we need to open the file, JSON file, in the reading mode. So for that, we need to use special class called file reader. In the previous examples also, we have used it, file reader. And here I can create one other object of file reader class. I'll say file reader, and here we specify the location of your JSON file, where exactly it is located. Now here a // represent your current project location or directory. Inside this, I have data folder. Inside this, my JSON file name is employee.json. So this is a file which we are opening in the reading mode using file reader, which we need to import from java.io package. So this will throw some exception, just add this. Okay. So once you created your file reader, so this is basically representing the JSON file, and this particular file we have to parse using JSON parser object. So how we can parse it? Once you parse this, we will get a JSON object. So if I look at our employee.json file, this is all one JSON object. So that we are going to read. So we need to create one more. We need to use one more class called JSON object, and I can say emp employee JSON object. Okay, equal to. So yeah, so here we need to parse, right? So before doing this, let us parse. So we have created JSON parser object and we have reader. So now we need to parse this particular file. So to parse this particular file, we have to take the help of JSON parser, and a dot, we have a method called parse. And inside this, we have to parse this file. So first step, we have created JSON parser object. Then we have opened the file using file reader. And now we are passing this file reader using JSON parser object using parse method. So once it is parsed, basically what is this method will do is, this method convert JSON file to Java object. So this particular method will convert a JSON file to Java object, and that we are going to store in a variable. Let me create one obj, and this is basically Java object type. Okay, so this will throw some exception. Just add this. So first step, we have parsed the file reader using JSON parser, and once you parse it, it will return a Java object. And what exactly we're doing in this step is we are converting the JSON file into Java object. So once you get this as a Java object, and from this object, we can read the data, but again, this is a Java object, right? So this again, we have to convert that into JSON object, because we are not going to read directly data from the Java object. We are going to read data from the JSON object. So we need to convert this into JSON object. So one more step is required. Step one, we have converted the JSON file into Java object. Now we need to convert this Java object into JSON object. So for that, we need to create, we need to just typecast this object. Whatever object we captured here, that is a Java object, that we need to typecast into JSON object. Okay, and that again we can store in a variable. So here I'll name it as emp JSON obj. So this is actually JSON object. Okay, so this is JSON object. We have to import this class from org.json.simple. So this is how we can do typecasting. So in the first step, we converted JSON file to Java object. And in this step, we have converted Java object to JSON object. Okay, so once the data is available in the form of JSON object, then we will be able to read the data. Or we can combine these two steps also. Once you parse this, and after parsing, we can concatenate, or we can do typecasting, and directly we can store in JSON object. So instead of doing this, you can directly put this here, single step. Or let me write, suppose I'm just combining these two. If we want to combine these two steps, I can say this is the actual step. So we need to get JSON object from the JSON file. That is our goal. So we already get the file, so that we need to convert that into JSON object. So this particular method will convert the JSON file into Java object. This will convert to the Java object, and later again, we will convert them into JSON object. So this is the final step, one single step. So what we are doing here is converting JSON file to, target goal is what? JSON file to JSON object. So finally, we converted JSON file to JSON object. So once you convert it into JSON object, we can easily read the data from the JSON object. So simply what we can do, take this JSON object. From the JSON object, we use a method called get. And here in the get method, we can specify the attribute. So whatever is there in the file. So first name, last name, address, 3 fields are there. So I'm extracting the first name, and this will return the first name. I call it as a f name, and this is a string variable. And again, so this particular get method will return an object type. So we need to do typecasting because we need to get that into string format. So I'm getting into string format. Same thing we repeat for other fields. And this is our last name. And instead of first name, I'm getting a last name. So now we got a last name. So let us print them. System.out.println. And this my first name is f name, and then last name is, this is our last name. Okay, so we read first name and last name directly because they are the direct attributes and values associated with this. Now address is another attribute which contains, actually this is a JSON array. This is the one element, this is another element. Means this is one JSON object, this is another JSON object. So that we have to read from address. Address is a JSON array. So this we have to read a different way, this particular array. So how to read this? We need to use a looping statement. So like first name and last name, we have to also capture address field after printing first name, last name, because address is a JSON array, we will deal it differently. So get of address. So this will basically return address. Address is what? JSON array, right? So at the time of converting also, we need to specify JSON array. And the type of variable is what? This is address array. And the type of this variable is what? JSON array. Right. So basically what we are doing it in address is a JSON array because which contains multiple JSON objects. So we are getting this address in the form of JSON array. So we are going to import this JSON array from org JSON-Simple and storing into the variable. And this is also JSON array type. So once we get a JSON array separately, which is basically an address, then from this array, we can read all the data. So how can we read it? By using a for loop. I'm just writing a for loop. So here array index start from 0. I'm taking I value 0. And how many times we can repeat this depends upon the size of a elements in array. So I can say address array dot size. So this will give you how many values on array. Every time I'll increase the index value. So now we need to read the data from this address array. And now if I look at this JSON, in address array contains this is one element, this is a second element. In every element, again, this is one JSON object. Okay, and this is another JSON object. Inside the JSON object, we have a 3 fields. Second JSON object, again, we have a 3 fields. Now we have to first get this one and then read all the fields. Then we will get another object. Then again, we have to read this. So in the for loop, so what we can do is, first we need to get the first object in JSON array. So how to get this from the address array, JSON array? We have to get the first object by using get of I. We just pass I value index. So that will get you the first element. First means what? In employee JSON, this is the one. So from this, again, we have to read street, city, and state, right? So how can we read it? You can simply say, we got this address array get of I, and that is basically an address, which again contains 3 fields. Okay, so I can say address. Okay, and the type of this is what? JSON object. Basically, this will return an object, address array get of Y, which will return as an object. So this is the entire thing is one object. This address is one object. So that we are going to store in a variable called address. Or else what you can do is we can write a single statement. So from address array, get of Y, get of I means what? This one. And in this again, street, city, state, we have to separately read. So how to read it? Get of I, again, dot, get of I, dot. And so we need to again convert this because get of I will return a JSON object, right? So for that, we need to create one address variable. And the type of this variable is JSON object. Okay, now this address array dot get of I method will return JSON object. So here again, we need to do typecast. This is JSON object. So now we got an address. Address means what here? It is representing one single object. This is the one. So from this again, we have to extract a street, city, and a state. So by taking help of this address, we can capture get of street. First, we'll extract street, and that we are going to store in a variable string street equal to address.get. So again, we need to convert this into string. So do typecasting as a string. So similarly, we will able to extract other values, city and state. So this is city and this is state. So this is again city, and this is again state. Okay, so first we capture first JSON object from array. From this, we have extracted street, city, and state. Okay, and then we will directly print them. System.out.println. I'm printing street, and then one tab space, concatenate city, concatenate again one tab space, and then I'll print state. Okay, so from this JSON array, we are extracted object, first object, and again extracted 3 values from that object, printed, and then next round it will get another object from the JSON array. That means first round we read this, second round we read this. And if I look at here, see this, in the first iteration, we have read first object from JSON array, which is this one, street, city, state. So we got first object into here, and we have read 3 values and printed. Second round, we got another object from JSON array, and that is again address, and again we have extracted street, city, and state. That's it. So this is how we can simply write a looping statement through which we can read data from JSON array. So this is from JSON array. So let me repeat once again. First, what we have done is, as soon as we have a JSON file, first we need to parse that JSON file into Java object. So for that, what we need to do is, and this is a reader JSON parser class object we created, and open the file in the reading mode. So our ultimate goal is we need to convert the JSON file into JSON object. So how to convert this into, before converting, we need to parse it. So here we have parse JSON parser.parse of reader. So once it is parsed, then we have converted into JSON object and put that into variable. So once the data is available in the form of JSON object, we're able to directly read like this by using get, and also printed. But again, in the JSON object, we have a JSON array, especially when you look at the address, this is a JSON array. So for that, we will specially get that address field and convert it into JSON array. And then from the JSON array, we have extracted first object, address object, and we read these 3 details. And after second round, again, we get another object of address and we read this thing. So it depends on how much data you have in this address field. And accordingly, this loop will get all the data from the JSON array. Now let us execute and see. Let me save it, then execute. Yeah, so first name, last name is giving null. So why it is giving null? Let us check. So emp JSON object.get of first name, and both are converting into string. So here we have written one single statement. So we have done some mistake here. JSON parser dot parse, and we have parsed the reader. So that will basically return JSON object. Sorry, just Java object. And that Java object, again, we convert it into JSON object, and the type is again JSON object. And from the JSON object, we get the first name, last name, we convert it into again string format, and we are printed. So let me run one more time. So still we got a null. So here we have done one mistake. Actually, the first name, last name, if I look at your JSON file, the N is a capital letter. Okay. So that is a mistake we have done. So let me make it as a capital name here. Okay, so we can run 2 steps, or we can make it as a single step. All right, so let us try to execute this. First name and last name, exactly it should be like this. First name and last name and address. Run as Java application. Now we can see here, we got first name, last name, and address 1 and address 2. So this is how we can parse JSON file into JSON object. Again, if we have any JSON array in JSON object, we get that array separately, and then we can iterate that array to get the values from array. So this is how we can use simple-JSON library to read and parse data from the JSON file. So only thing is you need to get this dependency JSON-Simple. It is pretty much easy to parse your JSON file. Okay, so that's all for this video. Thanks for watching.